Hi and welcome to Great Expectations. What is it to be a dad? Well, a mum is a fairly defined role. You carry the baby for 9 months or so, give birth, and then make sure he or she is fed and loved. But for a dude who suddenly becomes a dad, it all depends on the man himself. He can be very involved or not at all. And sadly, if a man has not been given an idea about parenting, it's so much easier for him to disconnect from being a dad. Well, today, ahead of Father's Day on Sunday, we are paying tribute to fathers and finding out what makes a great dad. But before we chat to our studio dads today, let's find out why kids love their daddy.
I love my daddy because he lets me watch TV all the time. He kisses me before I go to bed. I also love my daddy because he's allowed me so I can skip the bath for the next day. I love my daddy because he hugs us. I love my daddy because he takes me to school. My daddy is kind to me and I love him even though sometimes he's not kind to me. I like my daddy because whatever I tell him to buy for me, he buys it.
Makes dads look like pushovers, don't they? Well, let's talk fatherhood now with our guests. And with us in studio is pastor and father of two, Kudzai Shoko. His daughter Zoe is 15 and his son Sean is 10. Kudzai is a director of the National Center on Fathering in Southern Africa. He's also the founder of Integrity for Legacy Ministries International. And with him is dad of three, Steve Collins. His two oldest, Ayanda and Pele, are high achievers and studying at university. His youngest, Ita, is 5 years old. And like Kudzai, Steve is a very, very involved dad. Both of them learned how to be dads in part from the great example set by their very own fathers. Gentlemen, welcome to Great Expectations. Thank you for being brave enough to join us today. I promise it's not going to be an interrogation, so welcome and you can breathe. Kudzai, you deal a lot with dads day to day in what you do, and from what we heard, your involvement with them. How are dads in South Africa faring? How are they doing as dads?
Well, Vic, I think, dads, the performance of dads really is a reflection of where our society is. And that's a major challenge at the moment, given the statistics that come out in terms of where dads are and the amount of single parenting that's there. So yeah, it's a challenge from a South African perspective. It's also a challenge from a continental perspective and even greater from a global perspective. So those are the issues.
You mentioned the stats, and from that we gather there are a lot of absent dads. I mean, there's no getting away from that. Why is that the case here?
I think it's reflective of what we receive from the previous generation. You've got a lot of issues being migrant dads or migrant environments. And we tend to kind of default to what happened to us unless there's some form of intervention that we're able to induce in that process where we can change, the fathering portfolio. So
fathering portfolio, I like that. Now, Steve, you also have some thoughts on what the migrant worker system actually has done to fatherhood and parenting in this country. Tell us your thoughts.
I think it's created a long-term problem for children that grow up in where your father is working in Johannesburg and you're living in a rural area. Your role models are elderly men, they're grandparents, and I think children have a lot of, young boys especially, have a real problem with dealing with their mothers at times. Their mothers are having to discipline them, and then they've got these old men as only as role models. I think it's a problem, and it's a legacy that, I mean, I've seen. I think it's an African saying that a child is raised by a village. Now let's have a look at what that village is in a South African context. Often it's a village made up mostly of women and old men, and unless you're in an urban environment, and then you've got very different
other
challenges.
role models that you can field out of there.
So I think we're still dealing with this problem. As you say, it's a generational thing. Hopefully it'll change.
And a big contributor to this, the absent dad, the sort of trend that we're seeing at the moment. Now let's get a little more personal here. Kudzai, we're going to ask you about your daddy. He's in his 80s. Tell us about him and what you've learned from him.
Well, it's fantastic to be able to pay tribute to a dad who's 83. His name is 83.
Bester.
And he's my hero.
Look at the smile when you talk about your dad.
I'm very proud of my dad. He's created an environment or a situation where I'm able to stand on his shoulders and be able to see in the horizon to greater things. So I think my dad has been sacrificial. He's been very affirming. in what I do and everything about me. My dad's not perfect, but I think he's made every attempt to be what he can be as a dad.
And what did he teach you about being a dad? And how much of that have you brought now to your kids?
I think, current to the times that they grew up, it was about providing and protecting. I think my dad did all he could. He mustered all the strength and resources for me to have a great education. But I think he went a little bit beyond that, and he created the environment for exposure. He was supported if I traveled overseas or any other places.
He was a supportive dad.
So he was a supportive dad. He wasn't just an authoritarian dad. He kind of created an environment where there was control and support.
And he was involved.
He was quite involved.
And Steve, your dad, tell us about your relationship with him.
I don't think now it's so good because he lives in he lives in England.
Well, there's some distance between you,
there's
yes.
Distance.
Yes.
But I was thinking he was one of the coolest dads to have.
Coolest dads, yeah.
He had a gym in the time when gyms were not Virgin Active, etc. It was like
he had a gym at home.
No, he had like one of the first.
He went
house
to
studio.
Wow.
Wow,
okay.
So he was a bodybuilder who had this gym,
and that is
like
cool.
that was worth a lot at school. He drove a motorbike, so he was a cool dad to have.
And what's he taught you about being a daddy? You've got three.
I think he taught me one, respect other people. Always. The way you deal with other people is very important. And so there were some real values. He was not very religious. In fact, he was the opposite. But he had like a real sense of treat other human peoples with respect. You can learn from other people. He was very open to that. Don't judge somebody just by, and in the gym, everybody's wearing t-shirts. You don't know what they are. You don't know if they're clever or they just know they're either fat or thin, So, but that meant actually behind that, there are real people you can learn from them.
So what have you taken from your dad into your life as a dad and parenting your three kids? You've got two girls and a boy. Yeah. So how have you applied what he's taught you?
I've tried to certainly teach my children respect other people and be open to learning things. I think the basic values, human rights values, I think are important. That's what I've tried to instill. I think I've also done something very different and maybe it's just a sign of our times. I've managed to spend a lot more time with my children than he ever could.
Yeah. So we also take the lessons, the things that they couldn't do for us, and we reverse that, I think, a lot of us as parents in general.
Yeah, I think we do try and do that.
And do the opposite with our kids as well.
Exactly. I think I've set a good bad example for my children.
A good bad example. What not to do that daddy did 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
We're almost just a few seconds. And Kudzai, you deal a lot with dads in what you do. What are some of the common problems in a nutshell? What are their challenges that they're facing?
I think, commitment, being consistent, the ability to create an environment where they can exhibit a role model in terms of how do they love the mother of their children, setting that as a role model for the future. I think these are major challenges. And also, socio-economic environment also is a challenge.
I'd like to chat more about that in a moment when we come back. We'll send in your Father's Day tribute. In the meantime, you can call us on 011 447 1742 or simply SMS us on 34970. Don't forget, you can also send a message or your tribute on Facebook. And coming up next on Great Expectations, we meet a man who is not only the coolest sports anchor around, he's also loving being a brand new daddy. Hi again, you're with us on Great Expectations, and today we are paying tribute to fathers. In studio are fab dads Kudzai Shoko and Steve Collins. Kudzai and Steve, I hope you have some great fathering tips for our next guest, because he's going to need some. Well, when Sandile Kangosi is not bringing the sports news to ETV's 3 million primetime viewers, he's a proud brand new daddy to little Ayabulela, who is just 9 weeks old. Sandile, when I last saw you, you were single and fancy free, and now you have a little boy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wonderful. How's that working out for you?
It's not easy, but we're enjoying it.
Yes.
A lot of sleepless nights.
Yes. Welcome to the club.
But we take that in shifts, us both being this.
So how involved are you in your little guy's life? How much are you doing? Are you changing the poo nappies?
Yes.
Are you cleaning the boogers out the nose?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Everything, basically. I kind of learned that when my sister was born, because there's a 12-year difference between me and my sister.
Wow.
So I was
Yeah.
obviously like the babysitter, changing nappies, doing formulas, whatever else.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
I kind of took that experience and put that into this experience,
Yeah.
basically.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you're just loving being a dad. You're loving being a new daddy. Anything you need advice on at this point? Anything you're not sure
Not really,
about?
because I'm the kind of guy, might sound a bit conceited, but I like to, you know, try and do something myself. So then when I look back, I can actually say, well, I did that myself, you know. So it's basically trial and error like everything else in life, but we're working through it.
Yeah. Well, like you say, you know, you've had great experience in it. Your mom passed away when you were quite young. You were 14, if I'm not 13, 14, if I'm not mistaken. Your dad was an army man, or rather SANDF man. He was, and an MK veteran is where he is now. So just tell us what kind of example did he set for you as a dad? What did you learn from him? And what did you also see in him that you said you wouldn't do with your own boy?
I think our problem at the time was I was very rebellious due to the fact that my mother had passed away, and I was feeling angry at the world and aggressive, and was getting in trouble at school. I actually got expelled from Cape Town High. And that's what actually led me to getting into rugby. And my dad was, obviously, he was a major general in the South African Defence Force. Yeah. Wow. So he was a very sort of disciplinarian sort of father, had his soft moments, knew, you know, when to mix it up. But basically, being the type of man he was, and you could see it like when he's with his peers, they basically looked up to him and they, you know, kind of showed him that sort of respect. So that kind of seeped through into his fatherhood. So he was the kind of dad you didn't want to make angry.
You didn't want to mess with him.
But then me being me, which is basically a chip of the old block, we're basically the same kind of person. We used to clash heads a lot.
Even as a teenager.
Especially as a teenager. So that kind of led to a tumultuous kind of relationship. It was hard for him. And I actually take blame for that. You know, I didn't know how to deal with the loss of my mother at the time.
Yeah.
Neither did he, I think, because he's the kind of guy that didn't want to show emotions.
As it was in the old school way of doing things, I think.
Plus being an army man on top of all of that. So it took us a while to kind of, you know, get through what we need to do.
And what's your relationship like now?
Softened up.
Especially with your little boy coming along. I know that the dads change when the grandsons come along.
When they become granddads.
I know that. I've seen that myself. Yeah.
Plus my younger sister also has a 5-year-old kid. So it's not the first time he's becoming a granddad. This is his second grandchild.
Second time, yeah. And
just kind of ironic that my younger sister had a kid first.
Well, you know, you were busy doing other things. You were busy sort of doing, you know, sport and stuff like that. And there's pictures. Oh, there's little pictures. Oh, look at that. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And Steve, any advice you have? I mean, you've been through this 3 times. I mean, you have a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, and then a 5-year-old.
Yeah, soon. I mean, he's changing nappies. I'm thinking about when is the 19-year-old going to start changing my nappies as I get old. It goes very fast. Wow. The first, next thing you know, she's at school all the time. She's got sport all the time. She's
got no time for you.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, all you're doing is organising play dates with other people, you know, for her to go there. So enjoy this time. It's my advice also would be, don't be scared. I think people ask me, you know, your children are fantastic. How did you do this? And I said, we traveled with them a lot.
Right. Yes.
Take your children with you wherever you go. You know, up until they get to high school, school isn't that serious, really. You know, you can take them out for 2-3 months, and you could go and see the world, go meet different people. They learn a lot more there, and you get to spend time with them.
So basically be out and about.
Be out and about. So, Steve, you taught your kids through travel. You used travel a lot to teach them the ways of the world. And you attribute that to how they've turned out? I mean,
definitely.
You think
I think it made an absolutely huge difference. They need to be able to...
Why did you do that? Why? Did your dad do that a lot with you?
No, he didn't. We went on small holidays. And actually, one of the things that I will do different from my dad, he travelled before we were born. You know, when we had stories of him taking a motorbike in the 1960s and driving from North Africa down to back to South Africa, and that was always
so he's an
important.
Adventurer, yeah.
But then my mom and dad actually left us as me and my brother with my grandparents, and they went and did a 6-month trip. And I think that was not the right thing to do. I would. My position
So you did what your dad should have done.
Yeah. So if I want to travel, I must take my children.
And you took them to Vietnam?
We took them to Vietnam. We took them to South America. They've been into Africa. I do rural development. That's what the work I do. I've always taken them with me.
Lovely.
And they will learn something all the time. And they just absorb it. They're like sponges. They just absorb it.
So you get them interested in life.
Yeah, get them away from the TV.
Lovely advice.
You know.
Kudzai, some advice for Sandile here? You know, he's only 9 weeks into it.
I think it's a great thing, and it's a great, awesome gift that he has a child. But one of the things I might just throw in for him, as he develops the relationship with his child, is one of active listening. Active listening is a very, very important component in bringing about the development.
What is active listening?
Well, I just like to simplify it and putting it that, your ability to constantly listen and really listen to what your child creates creativity. It creates creativity in the child.
Yeah. And learn from the child.
And you can learn,
You will learn things. I learned about Facebook. From my child. It's like
they bring in the world to my footsteps. I can get the real issues that are going out there, because they see the world in a different lens.
They see the world.
And they communicate.
And it's lovely to see it through their eyes sometimes. Yeah. And you always say, love is spelled T-I-M-E?
Yeah, time.
Time.
It's time. People talk about quality time, quantity time, but all the same, it's time. You've got to create the time. You've got to be
special time.
Yeah, that special time. And like Steve talked about the holidays, I think that's key. Kids they will not remember the gifts that you bought them. They won't remember, the bike, but they will always remember the quality time that you spent. They'll remember that holiday. They'll remember that special moment.
And the splashing about and the laughing. Yeah. Now, you've got 2 girls and a boy, Steve. Has it been different? Have you had to parent them in different ways?
Yes, I think mostly there's like 90% is the same. We've had an approach which was not going to treat you differently because you're a girl or because you're a boy. But I think boys and girls do have different personalities that they bring into your situation.
So
you've got to respond to that in the appropriate way.
Well, like we say, each child is different. We always say that on the show. Every child is different.
I don't know if it's a gender thing, the difference between my daughter and my son. But they are different human beings. They're different people. You can't treat them the same way. You need to understand what they're going through, what they're dealing with.
And you look like a very happy dad.
I am.
So what is your message to dads out there for this Father's Day coming up? What is your message so that they can sit and smile like you are when they talk about their kids
I would say
about the experience of being a dad?
Being a father is a blessing. Enjoy it. Learn from your children, because there'll come a time like where I'm at now with my older children where I hardly see them. They're on a different continent. Wow. So, and then you will wish, I wish I'd spent more time with them, and you won't be able to. As long as you can move, get out and move. Don't let them go to the nightclub alone. Go with them.
Go with them.
Go with them.
So there'll be no announcements like your dad's waiting in the parking lot.
Exactly. Up until a point, then you stop going to the nightclubs. But keep having fun. I think that's what I've learned. People say you don't get older. They make you younger. I think that's what happens.
And we can see that. Thank you so much, Steve. Lovely advice and lovely chatting to you. And we'll wait for the announcement. Steve, your daughter's waiting for you in the parking lot. Coming up next.
Sick and tired of having to manage your temper.
Hey.
What do you get off thinking?
The celeb father keeps his scandals on screen, but at home he's a committed family man and loving dad. Welcome back. Today on Great Expectations, we are discussing dads and the role of fatherhood in South Africa. Our guests are fatherhood expert Kudzai Shoko and new dad and sports anchor Sandile Kangosi. And now we say hello to another dad you will certainly recognize. He too graces our screens every weekday on ETV. It's scandal actor and proud dad to 2-year-old Tsimolo. He is Kagiso Modupe. Welcome to Great Expectations. Thank you for taking... We actually come in on your day off.
Yes.
That's very nice. That's very, very nice.
I came especially just for you guys.
Now, everyone knows you as Mangi from Scandal, but you're also a very loving dad. Also a very loving dad. We'll add that to your CV. How is little Tsimolo?
Let me see. She's climbing on tables.
Oh dear. The terrible
she's talking to herself. She's laughing at her own jokes. She's disturbing me while I'm trying to watch Sandile. So she's fine. She's fine.
She's normal.
Yeah, she's doing what she's supposed to be doing.
And tell us about what it's like for you as a dad. What's it been like for you as a dad, especially to a little girl?
It's been an amazing journey for me. It's very interesting, and you get to learn from her as well, and you get to find your own strengths about yourself, and and just fitting in as a family unit. But it's been very lovely. I don't have any complaints.
And tell us about your dad, who you're
dad.
very, very close to.
Yeah.
Who you adore lots, I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Tell us about your dad, who he is, what he does.
He's a great man, man. He's a dental mechanic.
Dental mechanic.
But he's a great dad to me. That's the important
Look, you've got
part.
great teeth. Look at that. Yeah.
See.
At least, hey?
But he's a very loving dad, very supportive dad, and very, involved dad, and I'm very grateful for that.
And how has he shaped your view of family and what a dad's role in a family should be?
My father has taught me to let my kids guide me, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm letting Timolo guide me, and all I have to do is just say, okay, yes, no, yes, no. And he says, that allows the child to have their own personalities, because we cannot all be the same, and be very involved. And I've always been involved with my child, from changing nappies and stuff, and play with her. And that's what I've learned from him.
And what advice would you have for Sandile today? He's 9 weeks on the job.
Yeah, no, he's doing well. He's doing very well.
Yeah.
From what I hear, he's doing well.
He hasn't cracked yet.
Just follow your instincts, for him to just follow his instincts and just get advice, listen to it, but also raise your child your own way. Because there's like the old school and there's the new school. So you got to find where you want to be.
Now, Kudzai, these are fairly new dads. I mean, 2.5 years, 9 weeks. They're fairly new, and they're stepping up, to the plate. And just what do you see here that's different from how it used to be? Like, say, 10 or even 20 years ago.
I think the opportunity to raise kids in a different context. I think the principles remain the same. What is it that we want kids to do in terms of how we raise them? I think primarily what we are doing is we want them to raise them to know how to do life.
How to do life. Yeah.
And the context has changed. The advent of technology. What are the current socio-economic issues that are applicable, and it's to really find one's beliefs and values. And I'm speaking from a faith-based perspective. I would take mine from a Christian perspective, because that's what I am.
Yes.
That's my identity. And so I'll raise them from the principles that are there. And mainly they hinge on two issues of training and teaching and guiding them in the way that they should go. So there's definitely a Christian responsibility to it, and there's also a Christian outcome.
That's where you've taken. So find your values, find who you are, and where you want to guide them. And Ricky, so you're also very big on community parenting. I mean, we touched on it a bit earlier with Steve. And for our single mums who are watching today, what is your sort of advice to them on how to find the proper role models for their little boys and girls in the absence of
it's quite difficult now, especially this day and age where you have uncles, molesting kids and stuff. But I mean, I think, stick to family, stick to family, because you know them and you've lived with them, and you know who they are. But try and find someone that will shape your child to becoming the best that they can be, and because then I think just find someone that you think as a parent, use your instinct.
Your instinct as a mom
as
well.
Yeah.
So single moms out there need not panic about this, and I mean in light of all the negativity that we see out there, but you will know when you know.
But I think they should also try and play both roles. You have one of the greatest people in the world who were raised by single moms, and so try and play both roles as mom and dad sometimes.
Now, Kudzai, for somebody who has taken on that role, I mean, and I want to go here to dads who are not the biological fathers of the children that they are raising. I mean, just by not being a biological father, not having the same blood, doesn't mean that you're less of a father.
That's right.
So some advice to those dads as well.
I think that's a massive responsibility, and obviously they're making a quality decision in that they're able to provide a very authoritative position. They're providing both control and support within that. And again, going back to the issues of single moms, what are they looking for? They need to look for somebody in the community that is respected, has earned the respect, and also can carry the responsibility. So it's got to be that's kind of like the criterion. And then look at what are the values and the belief that you want to inculcate in the child. And then I'm not talking about it necessarily has to be an iconic figure in the community. It could be a person that's the bus driver, but he's been within that community. He has a track record. He has integrated, and he has a set of skills that can you know, that are commensurate.
There's always something to impart. There's always something that you will be able to teach.
Yeah. So there is that collective responsibility of dads coming in and being able to help out where a dad's either absent or is passed on and things like that.
Yes, and speaking of the responsibility, which you're learning all about, you're going to go off and start to prepare some sport just now. So is there any message you want to send out there to dads as somebody who's just had this shock to the system, I suppose, in the past 9 weeks?
If you think about it, there's a lot of talk about how, you know, parenting is expensive. But I think, as the pastor has just said, it's just about time and love. That's probably like the most important thing a parent can give their child, because you're not going to have every material resource out there. But as long as, you know,
you don't need everything out there, actually.
But at the same talk, not even need every resource out there. But as long as you love and share time with your kids, then I'm sure your kids will appreciate that.
And what's your message to your dad?
Love him. And thanks.
And I'm off to buy you your present now after this week. Lovely. And Kagiso, your message to your dad?
You were always right.
The great teeth, yes?
I can just say you were always right. You know, now I know you were right.
You can say it now, hey?
I can say it. But I want to say thank you for teaching me to humble myself to life.
Yeah.
You know, and thank you for the values that you've given me. And, you know, this is why I am who I am today, because of what you've instilled in me.
And you can retire now.
I can retire now.
You can retire now. Lovely. Thank you so much, Sandile. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know you probably needed to have a bit of sleep, but you came in here. And Kudzai, we'll chat to you a little bit later on. More advice coming from there. Coming up after the break.
Forever, just like the sky is blue.
Meet a Muslim dad who is passionate about parenting his 4 sons.
Me and you forever.
As we live our lives, facing every trial, I'll be by your side forever.
Till the day I'm gone to my eternal home, my love will still live on forever. 'Cause you mean the world to me, don't you see? It was nothing more than destiny. You and me. As the light descends, God's mercy never ends. We'll be together again.
Doesn't that just make you want to cry? What a beautiful song, all about fatherhood. And that is our topic on Great Expectations today. Welcome back. The song is called Forever, and the man who composed and sang it is right here with us now. Zain Bika, welcome to Great Expectations.
Thank you so
and
much.
not only is Zain a hands-on dad to 4 sons, he's also an internationally recognized Muslim singer. And with him is his eldest son, Rashid, with us today. Welcome, Rashid. And the boy you just saw in the music video is his second oldest, and that's Mohammed. Now, still with us is celeb dad and scandal star Kagiso Modupe. I know you're thinking about a song right now. You're thinking of lyrics as we sit here. Hey, I got you to write for your little girl.
Ring, ring,
or that big purple guy. Yeah. Yes, those ones. Lovely work that you do. Beautiful lyrics that we're seeing coming through. Zain, what made you want to do this kind of work? And, you know, how has it helped you be a dad? I'm sure you can't have that inside you and not have it affect how you parent.
No, absolutely. I think as a songwriter, I think inspiration, my biggest inspiration has always come from my family, from my boys.
Ah, lovely.
Because I think growing up as a father, you see your children, you see your life, you know, you actually measure your own life through your children in terms of as they get older, you gain so much experience, you learn so much from them, because each of them are special, each of them are different. So I've got them to thank for a lot of my inspirations behind my songs.
And how much of your dad influences what kind of dad you are to your boys?
I think it's a lot. You know, my father always encouraged us, despite, you know, probably against the norm at the time, but he encouraged us to be creative. He was always singing in the house.
Oh yeah?
And singing along. And
so he's been an inspiration as well to you?
I think tremendously. My dad is, you know, always encouraged us to be ourselves. Also, he encouraged us to respect all people, respect all cultures. He's a man of great discipline as well, which is important. You know,
as they all were. Yes.
As they all were, I think, those ages.
We know.
You know,
yes.
and not just, you know, of course, when it comes to faith-based discipline, but also, you know, discipline to our fellow human beings, to the country that you're living in, to contribute to society. And I think that's the greatest lesson that I learned from my dad.
And Rashid, tell us, what are you learning from your dad?
Well, because of the whole music career, I've actually got to travel a lot with my father. So I've been to
travel.
Yes,
yeah, we
yes,
heard that before as well.
Travel,
Yeah,
spending a lot of quality time with my father. We did a charity cycle early on in the year, and
you also went to Vietnam. Hey?
Yes, yes, both of us went to Vietnam.
The place to bond with your child, Vietnam. Let's remember that. Note to self. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So my dad has definitely taught me a lot, you know, over the traveling and just spending quality time with him. They say that you only know a person when you travel with them, and I think that's sort of made my dad's bond and I, you know.
Well, there's nothing like cycling with your dad, eh? Do you have a different relationship with your granddad than you do with your dad?
No, yeah, definitely. I feel a lot closer to my father because I've obviously seen my father a lot more, but I do have a really good bond with my grandfather as well because I've always gone there to him and he's always pampered me with my grandmother as well. So yeah, we have a different relationship, which is good.
Now you're 20, so
yes.
You've been past the teenage years, which are the difficult ones, and I'm sure difficult ones for dads and their sons as well. How did you weather the sort of, I mean, I'm sure there were tough times.
Yes, yes.
There were tough. How did you weather those tough times with your dad?
Well, basically, you know, you have to agree to disagree at times, but I think in the long run, you see that your dad was right, in fact. Because us as teenagers, we're very stubborn at times. We obviously think that we think
that our dads haven't been through it all and they haven't seen what's out there. But you know,
but also we have to understand that the world is changing. So our circumstances are obviously different. So yeah, you just have to find a balance. There is going to be tough times, but you know, you have to just keep strong and just make sure that you always do the right thing.
And don't lose focus that that's your dad and he knows. And from you, Zain, just, you know, advice for weathering those times, those tough times.
Yeah, I think just to always, sometimes, you know, you drive each other crazy, but I think the important thing is to stick at it and to always communicate, despite sometimes it being so difficult that you don't want to, but you need to always keep an open relationship with your children. You know, when they become older, you have to also respect their views, you have to respect their opinions. Sometimes we feel we want to put all our experiences and our frustrations onto our children, but they are human beings and they are different,
and they don't have to be
celebrate, and they're allowed to be. You need to celebrate their differences, and at some point you also realize that all you can be is really a guidance. You can't live their lives.
They're little people with little wills of their own.
Absolutely.
Now, Kagiso, that's a happy man there with 4 sons.
Yeah.
Eh? Are you planning to have four
I'm
kiddies?
in pre-production.
Wow. Are you pre-production?
I'm
He's in
pre-production.
pre-prod. He's reading the script.
I'm reading the script. I want a big family. Yeah.
You want a big family?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you come from a big family?
There's 3 of us, but I want to just do better than my dad. Just one more. Be like 4.
Just one more.
Yeah, just 1 more.
And you think you can handle it?
I think I can handle it. Just a lot of exercise, I guess.
And do you think that your little girl is gonna sort of follow in your footsteps, like Rashid is doing with his dad? Do you think she's gonna is she a bit of a drama queen from what you were telling me earlier? I gather so.
She's a drama queen. She's quite active, you know, and I was active as well. But I just want to let her do her thing and just, you know, follow her lead.
Will you support her no matter what she wants to do?
100%, because I was supported by my dad. I mean, one of the things was my dad used to support everything that I did.
I mean, he's a dental technician and you're an actor.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, he played a major role. He taught me how to read and write, soccer, and I was an active child, and he followed me around everywhere I went and just guided me. So that's what I want to do with Timola. I want to let her do her thing.
And let her guide you.
Yeah.
That's what you said. Rashid, your Father's Day message for your dad. If, you know, something you, I mean, we're going to have it on record.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just want my father to have a really good day. It shouldn't just be about this one day. It should be every day, I think.
You can tell him, he's right there.
Yeah, every day. And I just hope that I continue to make him proud, and that I know things have been tough between us, but you know, we've made it this far, and you know, we're gonna keep moving forward together. And I love him very much.
Oh, sweet. Anything you want to say to him, Zayn?
Yeah, no, I am very proud of him. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not proud of him and his brothers. So, yeah, I'm very proud.
I mean, he wrote a song for you guys. What more do you want? Yeah? Ah, lovely, lovely. Well, beautiful. I mean, I'm sure the other three are just as lovely as he is. And you can see what a wonderful dad you're doing as a job you're doing as a dad. Thank you, Rashid, for sharing those feelings with us. Not easy for a 20-year-old to do. Coming up after the break.
Every stumble, every fall breaks my heart in two.
Creating a father and child bond to last a lifetime.
Makes up the man, even though it takes a while. And God will always smile.
Happy Father's Day! I love you, Daddy!
Yes, loud and clear, so you can't forget it. It is Father's Day, and don't you forget it, mums. We won't let you. There are so many wonderful dads in our lives, and to you today, we want to say thank you for stepping up. Fatherhood consultant, pastor and dad Kudzai Shoko, singer Zayn Bika and actor Kagiso Modupe are in studio with us. Let's find out now how to make the father-child bond a bond for life. And I think, Kudzai, we saw what Zayn is doing, you know, the singing and the bonding and the traveling, and we heard from Steve earlier, all of that. Your advice for creating a bond with your child that's going to last a lifetime?
You know, there are quite a few things. I think one of them is commitment. And there's a commitment of dedication that says, I will be a father. I am the father of these children. And constantly just communicating that to yourself. And there's also the commitment of, of constraint, that you'll be there to provide for them. You'll be there in the greatest need, and particularly when conflict arises. You know, conflict is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yes,
it's
we
probably
learn from it all the time.
A point of reference where we can get to understand where we are, and how do we turn that conflict into something more meaningful for both you and the child.
Yes, because I mean, our children are little people,
yes,
and they're thinking things that you don't think they're thinking at that time,
yeah,
which is a shock to your system.
Potentially, that's the future. They're the future moms and dads. So they are going to express certain things that we've got to help them, you know, deal with and overcome. And I think that's important. And
Lovely.
You know, that's good.
Okay. Well, we've got some questions that have come in from our mums on Facebook, and Chantal wants to know, how do you convince a dad that it is important to spend time with his children? And I think, Kudzai, seeing as you advise our dads on a daily basis, how would you tell a dad that you need to spend time with your children?
I think it's also imbibed in the activities that we have on a daily basis. You know, I'm fortunate that I'm able to drive my kids to school.
Yes.
So that's spending time.
That's time.
You know,
yeah.
I have a policy that as much as I can, whether I'm going to the shops, I take one of them. And I get to understand, you know, their world, their environment, what they're saying. And then with my son, I have a date, well, with both of them.
Oh.
I date my children.
Lovely.
And in that particular moment, there is no agenda per se. I allow them to communicate what they're thinking. My son thinks he can recreate the universe.
Because you let him think he can recreate the universe.
And with my daughter, I'm really kind of showing her, you know, what a man, her future husband should be treating her. You know, the date, pull the chair, sit her, order, you know. So
Lovely
that she
advice.
feels that she
date
can
your children.
Yeah, date your children.
Yes. Well, Salma wants to know, how do you bridge the gap if dad only sees children a few times a year? And Zayn, I'm going to ask you this one, because you have 4 kids and you know about spending time, but you also have traveled a lot and not always with your kids. Yes. So how do you make up for that and bridge the gap?
I think the first thing is you need to realize that you need to make up. You need to spend quality time. I think time is really the greatest gift you can give your children. And you know, for me it gets difficult because I've got 4 boys.
Yes. And
sometimes we try to do things with them collectively, which is great. But I've also seen the great importance of spending individual time. So, you know, like as I've also allocate a day with each one of them, and you know, they determine what they want to do on that day. And it allows me to learn, because each one of them is so different. Each one of them has got their own personalities, their own fears, their own apprehensions, and their different ages. So it gives me a time gives me a chance to spend time with him. And I think it's always striving for the balance. Look, we don't get it right as fathers. We often mess up. We often lean too much, towards work or towards our careers. But it's about, taking time out and really, giving it your best shot.
So to that mum, in the time that the dad is spending, let him or tell him, show him how to spend that quality time.
And I think also, on top of that, with technology today, it allows us to connect.
Yes,
even though you might not be there physically, but you can do lots of little things to stay involved.
So use technology as well.
And I think that's what we should do. Yeah.
Lovely.
And then get involved in your children's, activities.
Be interested.
That creates a bond, whether it's football or reading or whatever the case may be. Get involved in their likes. It immediately creates a bigger bond.
Lovely. All right, time to get through one quick question. Detiro says her man is a wonderful dad, but she's stumped on what to get him for Father's Day. Any ideas? This dad. Very quickly, tell us. Help her out. What?
You gotta know your dad. Get him something.
What do you want? Okay, what do you want?
Well, I want love. I want to be appreciated as a dad. I want to sit and have family, because I think for us it's about, naturally we providers. So whatever we get. We'd rather just provide for them, and it makes more sense for us to buy for mommy and buy for them. But for us, we just want to be appreciated.
Lovely. Yeah. That's so nice. Yeah. And a lovely greasy breakfast wouldn't hurt either on Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Yeah.
Lovely.
But I also want to add on that thing, because the thing is, we travel a lot as dads, and you gotta have that time out, and sometimes you gotta let business go and spend time with your kids, because I know with me traveling a lot of times, sometimes I have to say, I can't do this gig. I have to spend time with
And love equals time. Unfortunately, we are out of it. So thank you, dads, for all your lovely messages, and have a lovely day on Sunday. To my dad, happy Father's Day. I won't be there to spend it with you, but love you always. And before I cry, we have a little gift for each of our dads on our show today. A hamper from Great Expectations, and wait for it, jockey, gentlemen, yes. And the first mom at home who tells us what date Father's Day falls on this year gets a hamper too. Let me calculate. Coming up tomorrow. Can Super Nanny turn these monsters into angels? Well, time for us to go now. We're going to play out with a beautiful song that Zane wrote. It's called Slowly Slow. Enjoy, and remember, mums and dads, you are all doing a great job.
And your window of time will come shining through. Slowly slow, don't rush, it'll all come easy. There's some things you can't take back, no regrets for what you're gonna get. Need some thinking down the line. Slowly slow, my darling, I'm here for you. And every stumble, every fall breaks my heart in two. I only want the best for you, and every step makes up the mile, even though it takes a while. And God will always smile on you, my child. So have faith, have faith. Just like the bird who feels the sun and sings before the dawn has come. Have faith.